Hello, folks, and welcome back to So What's New in the Biscuit Tin. I'm Jess.
And I'm Sam.
And today it's season 3, episode 4, and we have an extra special guest who I'm going to hand over to Sam to introduce.
So, back in season 2, I told a little story about the fact that I went on a family day out to Thorpe Park and bumped into a potential podcast guest. Well, that guest is here. So Marcus was wandering around Thorpe Park, put it on Instagram, said, I'm at Thorpe Park. And I was like, I'm there too. And my family, as usual, looking at me like, what is she going on about? What is she talking about now? I was extremely excited. Couldn't find Marcus in the amusement, could we? And so as I was walking with a very nonplussed 16-year-old across Thorpe Park, I was like, it's Marcus! So literally leapt out on him. So that was a peak excitement for me at Thorpe Park, ignoring all the roller coasters and everything. And immediately said, please come on the podcast. So which Marcus said, yes. So welcome, Marcus, to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks very much. What a turn of events that was. As you said, I was just there and I thought, I did a little Q&A, which I've never done before. And then this is what materialised. So it worked out really well.
Yes, and thank you very much for being lightly pressured into coming onto the podcast. We do appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
For our listeners, Marcus was on the last season of The Great British Sewing Bee. What season that was, I don't know. Marcus, do you know what season it was? Something crazy like 10, was it?
Season 10.
Yeah, season 10. And Marcus, I'm not saying this because you're on the podcast. This is the truth, and there is evidence of this in a previous season of our podcast. You were my favourite contestant because of your left field approach to everything. So Jess and I had quite a discussion about that in season 2, didn't we?
We did. She was.
Did you really?
She was obsessed, I think is the best way to put it, in like the best way. She just kept going. You should see it. Like he just approaches everything differently. And I was like, I love this. I love this for her. It's because that's the kind of sewist Sam is. So you like to see yourself represented on TV. I think that's fair.
Yeah. Yes, I am very much not a follow the rules person. So I very much appreciated the fact that when you were asked to do something with something, your brain went like mine, what can I do, rather than the traditional approach. And is that kind of how you think about things as well?
To some extent, I guess. I think when I went on the sewing bee, I hadn't really expected that to happen. But in that environment and in that room, you kind of didn't really think and just did what came out naturally. So I guess that is the way I think about it. But yeah, it was so much fun. And thanks so much for saying you're a fan. Like, I think it was quite polarizing because I did a bit of weird stuff. It's nice that some people liked it, really.
I think the world needs more weird stuff in it. And I always say everyone's weird once you get to know them. It's only people you don't know that aren't weird.
Well, this is true. This is very true.
Now, before we dive in, because we have sort of dived in, and I think this is going to be quite a free-form episode, we do, of course, have to put Marcus through our ritual guest question. Mm-hmm. We are primarily a biscuit podcast with occasional bouts of sewing, and we would love to know, Marcus, what kind of what biscuit are you?
Well, funnily enough, today I had a situation where there was no jammy dodger, and I thought there was going to be one in a little pack. You know those little... the little
snack pack.
Complimentary, And I was like, oh, give me the jammy dodger, and there was none in there. So I'm just thinking about them today. I might buy some tomorrow. So I'll go for that, straight jammy dodger.
So I love also how certain you are.
Yeah, and also, Marcus, you work in a school, don't you? So you are privileged to the staff biscuit tin. Is yours the kind of school that always has a stocked biscuit tin?
Not particularly. It was inset. So they put on coffee and biscuits in the hall. So we had them today. But yeah, actually my department has biscuits.
Staff are generally
which is,
in schools,
positive.
Yeah. I mean, I used to work in schools and you have to fuel staff with biscuits. It's the done thing.
Mm-hmm.
So Jess, what biscuit are you
I think that should be applied to all workplaces, frankly. What am I? I don't know. I mean... I'm still very much on the Tunnocks caramel wafer train, and I'll tell you why. And no matter when you listen to this, this will be my Tunnocks caramel wafer season. I mean, obviously they're not new to me because I did have a couple of people message me recently. I put something on Instagram. A couple of people messaged me going, "Oh, have you never eaten them before?" For the record, I'm Scottish. I've eaten them a lot. But at the moment, we're going through a period of Adam's doing a lot of working out and I'm training for a half marathon. And they're like condensed little bricks of sugar, basically. Sugar and carb, and like they're just so great. And there is nothing like coming back from a long run when you're like, oh God, I need to eat and shower and drink, and just picking one up and being like, okay, well now I can go for an extra like half hour before I get to food. So I think I'm maybe subsisting off caramel wafers. I think that might be what's happening, but I'm down with it, whatever it is. I'm enjoying it.
You're in your caramel wafer era. It's not just a phase. This is a whole era for you, Jess. You know, we've recorded several podcasts and you've not shifted yet.
No, I haven't. It's not quite a pursuit because I'm not trying different ones. I'm entirely happy with what I have. I'm just eating a lot of them.
Yeah.
How about you, Sam? What are you?
Wow, I really struggled the other day when you asked me, didn't I? And I've been things from like a soggy digestive biscuit when I've had a rough week through to all sorts. But today I am feeling quite like a macaron, like the proper fancy ones that are like all different colours. Because I'm packing at the moment to go on a week's sewing retreat with 5 other sewists. So there's been a lot of fabric in my house being turned out and all that sort of thing. And I think yesterday my fabric was very excited that some of it that hasn't been touched for a while was like, she's touching us, she might use us. So, I'm feeling quite colourful and, yeah. I mean, some of the fabric's finally fulfilling its destiny. Yeah.
Do you know what? It's nice for our fabric to fulfill its destiny.
Story.
It is like the fabric of Toy Story. She's taken us out the cupboard. Yeah.
Is a macaron a biscuit?
See, we always end up in this debate.
You bet. No, I haven't. So, I think I would class it. I've never said that way before. I would class that as a sandwich biscuit. Because you do bake it the same way and you sandwich it together. I would put that with fancy sandwich biscuits, personally. I think there's latitude here. I think, again, applying my very famous rule, if it's not a biscuit, what is it?
Yeah. What is it if it isn't a biscuit? Yeah. Is it a cake?
Yeah.
Definitely not a cake, is it?
It's like defining a negative, It's sort of biscuity,
I think it's in...
Yeah,
it's in the
you could
same
also
realms
apply...
as like... Go on.
I'm going to say the same thing. It's kind of pink wafer territory, isn't it?
Yeah, which has caused a debate before. Yeah, but we looked it up.
Yeah.
The people who make them describe them as pink wafer biscuits. So,
They do. Because I think, again, it's because there's layers. A wafer on its own isn't a biscuit, but it's several layers of wafer sandwiched with things. That's a biscuit, technically.
I mean, if the branding says biscuit, it's got to be a biscuit, hasn't it?
That's true, but then Jaffa cake is it a cake? Because it calls itself a cake, but is it? So, I don't always trust marketing. The other rule you can go by is where would you find it in Sainsbury's, but you can't find macarons, fancy ones in Sainsbury's, so you're sort of
the other rule is
does
it go hard or soggy when it's stale?
Yeah, that's true.
Biscuits go soggy and cakes go hard and bread goes hard.
Yes, they do. Now, has a macaron ever stayed in your house long enough to go stale? And have you been able to observe what happens?
No, and I can't say that would ever happen. So.
Can I, very quickly, before we move off biscuit chat, can I ask our lovely listeners something? You know when you remember something that you're 90% sure that you've dreamed as a child, or like no one around you remembers, and you start thinking, maybe, am I okay? Like, have I imagined this whole thing? There's macarons, right? But there's also a weird sort of coconut biscuit called a macaroon. Yep.
Yes, with black
they
chocolate
exist,
drizzled over the top.
They
and you have rice paper on the bottom. Yes. They were my dad's dessert
Obviously, I'm
choice.
horrendously allergic to them. But yes, like I was just having an absolute minute and I was talking to someone and they were like, I don't, are you okay? That's not what they are. But no, they're real,
too
aren't
young. They don't remember them. Yeah, I remember those. My mum always used to buy
macaroons are
those.
good.
Yeah, that's quite old school. So, Marcus, in my preparation for this episode, I thought I would Google you and see what it said. And it said that you describe your style as jarring, garish, and kitsch. Is that you, or is that Google just making stuff up that other people have written?
I never used those words, and I think it only came about after all the filming. I think there was like a trailer or something, And then that's when I read it for the first time. And I was like, oh my God, is that really what's become of me from this whole, like 6-7 weeks?
Okay, so that's really interesting. That's why I was really
She
like
did
to ask
send me that
people.
earlier.
And I was like, that's really...
She
and
sent
I
me
thought,
that description
let's
earlier. Yeah.
It said you lived in Canada. Did you live in Canada?
Yeah, not for very long. It kind of got cut short by COVID.
Oh, right.
But me and my missus went there for like... Well, we were sort of traveling for about 6 months. Spent like a couple of months in California. Yeah, going around camping, and then lived in Canada for a bit. Just sort of for fun, not really to pursue anything, just see what it's like.
That's so cool.
Nice.
That's why I started watching the Sewing Bee, actually, because I was feeling quite homesick, and she showed me the Sewing Bee, and it was just nice to hear the accents again, you know, and have some sort of Britishness over there.
Definitely.
And then I was like, yeah, that was the first time I watched it, and I thought, when I go back home, I'm going to buy a sewing machine, and it was locked down, so it just worked out.
Cool. So it's another lockdown service. That's interesting. Yeah. So yeah, we'll let you refute then the jarring garish kitsch before the end of the episode. We'll let you say what you want to correct the record to say on that one. So, Jess, Marcus is having to think about that.
Yeah.
What have you been
I
up
think
to,
the rule
Jess?
has to be, though, I was going to say, the rule has to be, though, he still has to pick 3 words, and we are going to use them as the episode title. That's
really mean.
Yeah,
Oh
no, we won't be that mean unless what you say is hilarious, and then we will bother it.
It's good enough. Yeah, it's good enough. Just no pressure.
Yeah, you know,
no pressure, yeah.
Just if you want to be on the podcast again, you know, we're so happy to have you here. But before we dive into today's very exciting topic, as Sam has said, what are we all sewing? Sam, what are you sewing?
Right, well, I have finally finished the trouser pursuit, and I finished sweatshirts now as well. I've sewn a lot of sweatshirts lately, so I'm looking for my next sort of pursuit, but I have an idea what it is, but I'm not going to say yet because it's not a great combination with the word pursuit, actually.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. You have to tell us. Maybe that'll be episode 8. Will be me and you having a lengthy discussion as to what you should actually call it.
However,
how are the sleeves going?
Well, I was just going to say, I've now bought a book called Mad About Sleeves, which is by The Shape of Fabric.
Oh, nice.
And, it is, it's one of the best books I've ever owned, actually, because the instructions are really clear in how you take a straightforward sleeve block and hack it. And there are elven sleeves, all sorts of things in there. So I am now on...
Elven sleeves?
Yeah, think Elvish. Think of not Elvis, but Elvish.
Yeah.
Think of like Lord of the Rings, that sort of type of sleeve.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see it.
But those sleeves are all based on like medieval costume. So
yeah,
do those sleeves not already have a name?
Well, interestingly, no. But the person who's produced this book, there's over 100 different sleeve types in there. But what
Jesus,
I really
we should have got them on the sleeve episode. My God.
Yeah.
So there's leg of mutton, and then there's extra large leg of mutton. Who wouldn't want like an extra large one?
Can you imagine?
So I'm on about my 8th different sleeve now, and I never thought I would say this, but I'm actually enjoying using a ruler. I'm not a big fan of a ruler.
Are you okay?
I know, and I've been tracing off multiple sleeve blocks and cutting and splaying, and I'm having a whale of a time.
How cool.
Oh my God, I love that for you.
Yeah, so there we go. There's
Did
a lot
you
of
say you're not
sleevage
a fan
going
of
on.
a ruler?
I am not a fan of a ruler. I never use a ruler when I hem. I never measure. I do it all by eye.
Really?
When I quill, I don't use a ruler. Yeah.
Do you know what though? Neither do I in a sewing context.
Yeah.
I don't use one for a hem, but I use it almost always when I'm doing my house coats. I use a big meter stick and go along with so satisfying, just straight line. Oh, love it.
See, I don't use a rotary cutter. I use scissors.
I only use scissors as well.
Yeah, I do if I'm making anything bar a big sort of robe, to be honest. Go for scissors. But if it's like 2 meters, a meter and a half long, then straight rotary cut. I love it.
See, I do the exact opposite. The only thing I use rotary cutters for is tiny pieces that have finicky little corners and bends. So like if I'm making lingerie or bras, I'll use a rotary cutter every day of the week. Because you're cutting lace, you need it to lay flat. It's got really awkward little bits. But like when I was cutting my wedding dress out, that was like 4 meters. And I was like, scissors, pattern weight, like, I think I was so scared. Maybe I don't have control of a rotary cutter yet. Maybe I'm not confident that I can do a straight line, like for 2 meters and be
Well,
fine.
I go off on a weird tangent when I cut with a rotary cutter. I don't like it.
Well, if you get a bit, thick meter rule, you just sort of butt up alongside it, and then you can't really go wrong.
Oh, you genius. Maybe that's what I actually need in my life is a meter stick, and then I could do a lot more.
Oh god, yeah. Game changer, meter stick. That's a person's best friend.
I wonder if I could.
It used to be when I was a teacher, pointing
one.
at children. Yeah.
Oh my god! Did you? Did you? As a 5'2" woman, did you use a stick half of your height? Or no, over half of your height to point at children?
2/3 of my height.
Yeah.
I'm 1 meter 54.
I say this as a fellow short woman. I think if I used a meter stick to point at people, I'd topple over.
Remember, I started teaching in 1999, so pointing at a child with a meter ruler was acceptable at those times.
Do you know what? I fancy doing that when I'm teaching my students, university students. I reckon if I started pointing at them with a long stick, they'd listen more. But, I assume the university would have something to say about that.
Yeah, times have changed.
There's something to be said for a long stick, no doubt.
I'm a bit disappointed I didn't bring one home with me on my last day of working in a school, because they're just like everywhere in school, aren't they?
That feels like something you should have stolen. I'm sorry, like 100%.
That and the giant protractor, like, because obviously when I started teaching, there were still chalkboards, and you could we had like giant protractors that you could draw
had those
around and things. Oh, they were awesome. I loved a giant.
Yeah, I remember them. Yeah.
Although I have to say, in a sewing perspective, I think it's called a pattern mate. I can't remember, but it's got like a French curve on the inside, and then like a big curve on the outside, and then a fully straight line. It's like a Perspex thing, and it's great. I use it I used it a lot when I was drafting my wedding dress and like making pattern adjustments and everything. It's really handy. I would definitely recommend.
Yeah.
So very cool things.
Yeah. So,
Marcus, what about you, Marcus? What are you sewing at the moment?
Well, I'm sewing a house coat, which is why I'm obsessed with my meter rule at the moment, which is like, it's like a big sort of dressing gown, robe, kimono sleeve type thing, which I sort of came up with a few years ago. And I made loads of them since. They take a really long time. They deceptively look quite simple because it's just a wrap with a neckband. But because they're quite big and they're really heavy, and because it's such a straight line, if you get it wrong a centimetre or two at the top, or even less, it makes a big difference by the time you get to the bottom.
Right, okay.
Anyway, yes, that's what I'm making. Plus a couple other little bits. I made a hat not long ago. I've inadvertently got into this habit of making a hat for each of my friends' stag do's.
Oh, I love
Just
that.
like a bit of a laugh with like something pertaining to them on it. But it's it's quite a few stag do's now, so I made quite a lot.
No, that sounds amazing. I have a question.
Yeah.
I was on your Instagram having a look at your amazing house coats because they are stunning. I'm kind of obsessed with the Dragon Ball Z one. That's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. It looks so cozy, but also like, I don't know, when it's all laid out, it's like, this is amazing. But when you wear it, you can't quite tell what the pattern is, which I love. That's so cool.
They're really cozy and warm, and they've got sort of a fringe around the sleeve. That Dragon Ball Z one, when I put it together, there was, even though it's so busy, the pattern, there was like something missing. I don't know why. Usually I just keep the fronts straight, but I did like applique all the way up. It took absolutely ages, but I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, it looks
and I'm
stunning.
Going to do... Thanks, yeah. I'm super happy.
Favourite one thing you've made is the one from, I think it's from a Ghostbusters duvet, that like bomber jacket one. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I got a couple of them. I got a Small Soldiers one as well. Do you remember that movie, Small Soldiers?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one, and a Harry Potter one as well. But bed sheets are great to use. There's a few people on Instagram who use bed sheets really, really well.
Yeah.
I'll have to remember their names and plug them. And they kind of inspired me to do that kind of stuff.
I love a duvet. I've got a couple of like 80s ones that I found on eBay. And then I get the fear because I don't want to cut them up because you can't get them anymore.
I know. Some of them are rare.
Yeah.
Saying eBay as well, I always love people, quite often if you make something quite loud like that, they say, oh, where'd you get the fabric? And you say, that's half the battle, is finding and sourcing that fabric. eBay, Depop, Gumtree, and it's like I've got all these saved searches on my emails, and I actually really enjoy that part of it as well.
Yeah,
Oh,
and I think
amazing.
that's something that I say to people, because I love like searching charity shops for like bits of fabric and things, and my niece calls charity shops treasure shops, which I love
Aw.
because you have to keep searching. I reckon every time I go to about 50 charity shops, I'll probably find like one or two decent things. It takes perseverance, because like when I made all my quilted jackets, people say, "Oh, I never find a quilt in a charity shop." I'm like, I go to, in a year I probably visited about between 100 and 200 charity shops, and I find two quilts.
Yeah,
But I
it's hit and
also
miss.
think
You got to keep
Yeah,
up the
it's
grind.
it's the hunt.
you're immensely lucky though,
Yeah.
and you have patience that I don't think most people have. Like, I think also if I have to say, actually, I not even have to, I want to say something lovely about my podcast partner. I think Sam has an incredible gift to look at items out of context and see what they could be, which I think is quite enviable. Whereas I don't know, I don't have the patience. Either I'm like, I see it immediately, I'm there, or I'm like, no, I have no idea. I don't have the patience for this. I'm going to go get a coffee. So there's no middle ground.
But I think either way works, right? And they each have their benefits, and they're each good for their own thing. And it's just, I guess it's about sort of embracing whichever type of sewer you are, and doing the best that like you want to do with it. And I think, as you say, like we'll always have fans in other people, right? Like on the sewing bee, for instance, we all loved everything each other made so much, like more than ourselves. So all of us were like, oh, yours was so good, da, da, da. And it's like, you sort of just appreciate what each other has. Like you just said about Sam, that's what nice compliment about each other's stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it is. I love that doing the Christmas quiz, actually, because I think we got to, like, I think we learnt some extra things about each other, which was very fun.
Yeah.
But also it was quite nice, I think, reflecting on each other's, like, the way we do things differently and similarly. Like, I love the fact that I cannot bear cutting things out. And you love cutting things out.
I love cutting
It's
stuff out.
the worst step. Seriously. Like,
mammoth cutting session, fabric out,
Jesus.
choosing the fabric, doing some sewing yoga. I like getting around a bit of wooden board on the floor, because I don't have a sewing room or a cutting table or anything. So literally it's a bit of like MDF on the floor. And like just, choosing, and then you get this like satisfying pile, and I love it. Yeah, it's great.
I like cutting as well, but
yeah,
I've actually just yesterday upgraded my sewing table. I've lifted it on a couple of books.
Oh yeah.
Well, actually, wads of paper for a printer, and I've raised it up to about maybe belly button height or a bit higher. And it's I actually haven't cut on it yet. I just finished it today, but I can't wait.
That's so exciting. I mean, I can't cut on a table, but I'm convinced it's because, well, firstly, I don't know, if I have to cut, I like to have everything laid out on the floor, and I can sort of cut that way, and like I'm happy doing that. But I really struggle on a table because I often can't reach to the other side, like when I've used cutting tables. So I get stuck, and then I have to struggle around, and I think, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I mean, I think it's because I already don't like doing it. But conversely, I would sit and put invisible zips and do French seams all day. Like, that's fine to me. I really don't mind that at all. But hemming and cutting out, I'm like, please spare me. Why is this happening to me?
Yeah, not so much a fan of the happening. I think the fastenings and stuff like that, if you get them so solid that you can do them really quickly and easily, they can become quite fun. But I've always had a problem with invisible zips, to be honest. Even after all this time. Yeah,
I don't mind an invisible zip, but
If you've got to press and open.
Like,
yeah.
Have you guys ever done this? So the two things that have led to the best zips of my life, well, actually three things, because I've normally had
the best zips in my life.
Well, I've done some fantastic zips, and I've done some zips that make me want to throw stuff out the window. And the general rule seems to be, the more time you spend pressing the zip so that you roll the teeth back and you get that really nice little edge, the better it's going to be. But also, I use some pins to make sure it's level, but I sew so slowly, and both of my hands are like in there and involved and pulling stuff apart, and I'm sewing so slowly. But also, I find having TV and a glass of wine helps, because the more, I think it's like, you know when a cat you don't like a cat, and it knows that, and it comes and sits on you? That's how I feel about zips. You can't let the zip see that you don't want to do it, you know? You have to just take a run at it and just, you know, be chatting and, you know, doing it. Whereas if I stare at a zip, it will go wrong and I'll have to do it 17 times.
That is such a good point.
Yeah,
that is such a good point. I've never heard that or read that or anything, but it's so true. You can't let the zip defeat. You have to own the zip.
Yeah, it's
you
your
can't let
zip.
it sense your fear, can you? It's like a wild animal. You've got to be big and be brave, otherwise it can sense it, can't it?
Whereas
and you can always unpick.
Well, exactly. Whereas buttonholes, I think the opposite. Buttonholes, you must show reverence and fear to. You must be like, yes, I know you could go horribly wrong. I'm very sorry. I will be very careful, because otherwise you end up off the edge.
The buttonhole, you have to,
Buttonholes. My sewing machine.
This is our new merch, guys. We'll get this put on stuff.
Yes, respect that's quite in dodgy territory. My sewing machine, though, it'll go, yeah, I'll do it properly for you on your practice one, but I'm not going to do it properly on the real one. That's what my sewing machine's like. So, yeah. I avoid them at all costs. If I can put something over my head, I will just sew the buttons onto the placket so they look like they're doing their job, but I don't have to unbutton
Sorry, she
them.
means garments. She doesn't just mean she has a weird, unrelated test she does.
Like plackets, just random plackets
that's
every
like
morning in the house, you know.
Well, that's a friend of mine, because I now work in the IT team as well. A friend of mine was telling me that in like the 90s he was doing tech support, and apparently there was like a floppy disk setting where it was like the shorthand for it was to like put it in and close the door or whatever it was. There was like a little door on the computers, and he was on the phone to this guy and he goes, right, okay, now close the door. And then he hears like the phone being put like on the desk, and he hears feet and then actual door closing. And then he came and sat down and he's like, okay, and now what? And this guy is just,
I need a private moment with the floppy disk
like
drive.
Like he's a spy.
Exactly. That's what I think of with this. So I'm actually doing some sewing, I promise. I am here. I may not be very present on Instagram at the moment because So Yellow Ferendo will have finished and I will be having a lie down probably. But I am planning some sewing. And I am starting to sew for my honeymoon, which is coming up, finally. I haven't had a holiday in about 3 years, so I am very excited. So I'm sewing lots of summery things. We are going to Greece for 2 weeks, and we're kind of
nice
backpacking-ish. So we're staying in nice hotels, but we're like going a new place every 2 days. So I need to pack quite light. Yeah, exactly. It's going to be great fun. But as a result, I want to like build a bit of... Now, I don't want to use the words capsule wardrobe because you know I'm allergic to a capsule wardrobe. Yeah, but I want garments that are easy to wash and like light and comfortable. So I'm thinking lots of like cotton poplin and that kind of stuff that will like air dry really well.
Linen.
Yeah. Cotton linens, probably not viscose, because all you have to do in viscose is sweat and then sit down and it's like you're wearing a bin bag suddenly. So yeah, I'm thinking lots of like cottons, structured linens, maybe some very, very lightweight like bull denim as well for shorts and stuff. That's what kind of where I am at the moment. That's what I'm thinking about.
Isn't it nice to be able to sew with function in mind?
God, yeah, that's become a huge part of my, sounds really stupid, but my sewing practice, as it were. It's a big part. Now, I want to be able to wear the clothes I make. Like, for example, hopefully, actually, no, it will be out by the time this episode is out. I will have made the best bomber jacket of my life. Oh my God, I have to tell you guys about this. So,
that tapestry fabric's amazing.
Isn't it stunning?
Yeah.
So, oh God, I'd love the kind of life where I wore tailored Ted Baker dresses every day. You know, that would be really nice. But obviously not reality. So I'm making a bomber jacket instead. Which is going to be really, really cool, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Love a bomber jacket. Is it lined?
Exactly. Yeah, no, because the jacquard has a reverse side that's also beautiful. So I'm just going to, like, bias bind all the seams. I'll just do it that way. And then I don't have to deal with... I mean, I could line it, I just can't really be asked, so I won't. And also the inside of the fabric's
pattern?
pretty. Yes, I will be using the Cashmerette Kimball bomber, which is a club pattern. I've made one before. It's stunning. I wear it all the time. Its only fault is that it's a black base, like 90% of my wardrobe. So I thought it'd be nice to have like a bright one that I could wear with like jeans and a white t-shirt. Yeah. Or like style differently. And this is my game, Marcus, on the podcast, is that I have to have a styling reason to make stuff. So if I can think of 3 different ways of wearing it, then I'll make it. But otherwise my wardrobe is groaning, so I can't. Everything has to justify a place.
Jess and I are both
That's
big
a great
believers
idea.
in sewing what you need / want, but not sewing aspirationally and then it all just sitting in the wardrobe and, again, not fulfilling its destiny to be worn. It's just sad.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
And there's no reason
Also,
why
but the
basics
other,
can't be joyful, you know.
you are the ultimate progenitor of that. Like, you have the most glorious t-shirts, long sleeve tops, jumpers, trousers. Like, I love it. I absolutely love it. I am following you in terms of making basics, but a huge number of mine will be black and everyone's just going to have to deal with that. But that is my version of joy.
That's your thing. So
that's true.
We're half
Shall we talk
an hour
about
in
what
and
we're
we
meant to
haven't
be
even
talking
got
about?
to the main theme.
That's very on brand, though.
Yeah. So we love a dilemma. Somebody sent us a message, and this fits perfectly with this episode and what we've talked about so far. And they said, "Dear So What's New, I love the podcast. I'm always looking for new things to try with my sewing. The problem is I get nervous about making mistakes or how things turn out. I want to relax a bit more with my sewing and have a bit more fun. Can you give me any advice?" And we thought, Marcus is the perfect person to help with that.
That's
so
true.
hopefully,
Wow.
Marcus, you feel like you're a good person to help with that.
Yeah.
Irrespective of what Google said about you when I looked it up.
Jarring and kit.
Yes.
I have a saying which is, it doesn't matter how far you get, just get started. And I think there is something to be said for starting a project, however much. What you said earlier, actually, that like sometimes with a bit of TV on and like a cup of whatever it is you want to drink, and just get started on something. And if it doesn't work out, so be it. Like, you'll still feel a sense of achievement having started something. And there's another thing, which is that so often things look terrible until the last stitch goes in. And I find it so weird. And I found it with embroidery. I first started doing embroidery. And the whole way through, for an hour or so of embroidering something onto a shirt, I'll be like, oh, this is rubbish. And then you put that last one in and it just comes together like magic. It's so weird. I really do believe in it. So get started.
And you've got to make mistakes, because if you're taking risks, mistakes should happen, because otherwise you're not taking a risk. But I always say, no one knows also, unless you tell them. You can just stuff it in the corner and never talk about it. Nobody will know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but also you're not a couturier. You're not making this for like thousands of like. I think that's the thing. Sometimes, and Sam, stop me when I start to rant. But sometimes we all get
you've got
caught
38
up,
minutes in before you've ranted, so you know.
Excellent. Okay, fine. I can do that.
Yeah.
I think that's a personal best. No, so you are not a couturier. Someone is not paying you £10,000 for your garment, and if they are, then I can understand the concern.
Yeah.
This is for you. This is your hobby. This is you learning a skill. You are going to mess it up. You are going to make something that doesn't fit you. You are going to make something beautiful and cut a hole in it at the last minute. All of these things will happen, and that's okay. It doesn't mean it can't be a joyful process.
It's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Sometimes, it's a mindset, right? I think it's very much a mindset in that if you can embrace a mistake, you can have a lot of fun with it. And I think there's something to be said for mistakes being just as artistic as doing something right. I think for instance, if you're unpicking a mistake, you're still actively working on something. You're making a change to something that previously wasn't changed. You're using your brain and your hands, and you've altered something, whether it's for the bad or good. It's still an achievement.
Yeah. And you learn through doing it. Sam will remember the absolute cataclysm that was me sewing my husband's shirt 3 days before our wedding. I adore my husband. He's the best person in the world. I love him so much. I can confidently say the Thread Theory shirt I was using is not drafted for his body in any way at all. We went through 6 versions.
Picture after picture. If it doesn't fit here, it doesn't fit here. It's just,
I did the most complex set of adjustments I did in the whole of last year on that shirt, and that's including my own wedding dress.
Yeah.
That literally was one of the most frustrating things I've ever done. Do I now know how to do a full bust adjustment, a sloping shoulder adjustment, and a range of other stuff? Yeah, because you go through versions.
Yes, I think
really
you mean
like
full
what
bicep,
you said as well.
not full bust. I think you mean full bicep.
Yeah, that's the one. Yes,
It's
full bicep,
hard
but
to
also
fit a shirt.
Yeah, well, it is. I did a full bicep adjustment, but I also did the men's equivalent of a full bust adjustment.
Okay.
So,
Oh, cool.
like broadening the chest, because I
Yeah.
had to narrow the back and broaden it was a whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's a lot about posture, right?
It is, and it's also just, I think that fitting to someone else's body is always difficult. But I think the moral of the story was, you just keep doing it. You just keep, right, okay, we'll fix this draft, and then we'll move on. And we'll fix this. Okay, great, so we're here now. Let's fix this now. Let's look at this. And I think this is going to bring me round to my second ranting point. Redefine what you think of as a mistake. Because not everything is a mistake. I have, as I do with everything, I'm a very organised person, I have 3 categories of mistake. The no one will notice it, it'll be all right. The middle, which is, it's not ideal, we should do something about this. And the end one, which is, you're going to have to start again. That is an actual, that's a problem. And I try to categorise it because there's a lot of stuff where if you spend hours and days and weeks and months on a garment and you do a tiny thing wrong, it can send you into a spiral, and it's okay, we all do it. What I would tell you to do, put it down for a second. Just walk away. Go look at the sunlight. Go talk to someone. Go just decompress and then come back. And if you can look at it and you can think of at least 2 things you can do to fix it, it's not a mistake. It's just an extra step. It's fine. It's okay. You haven't done anything there's so few things you can do in sewing that are going to go that badly wrong that you can't fix it. There's so few things.
The hole with your overlocker right in the...
Which we've all done. However, I thoroughly encourage bit of interfacing, thread that matches the fabric, zigzag it, you're fine.
It is recoverable.
Yeah, you've got to do stuff like that, don't you? And it could be said that mistakes are the one opportunity you have to actually properly learn. And if you think about it like that, then it's all good, sort of.
Absolutely.
Also, I think about the bustier dress that I made on Sewing Bee so often, because I never thought I would make anything like that ever. It was just completely unfathomable. And even when the sort of brief came out, I was like, I didn't think I would get that far. And I'm so proud of it. It's far from perfect. There's so much wrong. There's things wrong that I can't really fix, it's beyond. But I'm proud of it like I am nothing else, because it was just so, I did it, regardless of how it went.
And it came out of your brain, and it was because it was inspired by, I'm going to have a moment now. It was inspired by a band, wasn't it? And I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of them. Yeah.
My Chemical Romance.
That's it. And I just love that where because that has started as a thought bubble in your brain, and the fact that, it's and I think this is the thing. I did a survey a while ago on my Instagram stories asking sewists, do they consider themselves creative? And I was really surprised how many people voted no.
Really?
Because I was kind of expecting it, because I often talk to people about this, but also still surprised. And when I was looking at the names of the people that said no, I know some of them through various things like the Sewing Social I organise and things. And I'm thinking, I think, this person is so creative with their use of fabric, yet they don't see themselves that way. And I think... Every human being is creative, but so many of us, through what we've been through in our lives, whether at school we were told we weren't very good at art or whatever it was, we've lost that sense of the fact that actually this is a creative activity. Even though we might be following someone else's pattern, we are combining the fabric of our choice with, which part of the pattern, because most patterns have multiple options. And, I'm really passionate about helping people realise that actually they are creative. And I was really surprised. And then I went on and asked, do you have a negative voice that puts you off from taking a creative risk? And again, that was interesting how many people have that. Because we've talked before about that perfectionist voice that some people have, which comes from an old sewing teacher or whatever. But the fact that they're scared to take that risk because there's that sort of negative voice saying you won't do it, you can't do it. And I thought it was really interesting. And I think helping people to know that, creativity is a personal thing, but you can do it and it doesn't have to be public. You don't have to show anyone the 3 attempts you made at constructing your own dress.
No, of course
It's just a personal experience. I think sometimes we now live in a world where everything's supposed to be shared, but actually you don't need to,
Well, I am going to throw something out here, though, for the people who don't think they're creative, because for a long time that was me. I still don't really think I'm that creative in the same way. I can now define that and say I'm not necessarily creative in the way that Sam is creative or that you are creative. I think creativity can be different on different people. I am a creative problem solver. I know that. If you give me this has gone horribly wrong, I'm in my element. I'm happy. That's a lot of creation for me. But I'm not creative in that if you gave me a sack full of shirts, I couldn't create something for you. Like, I'd find that very, very difficult. And I think the problem is a lot of people in the sewing community think that's what creative is, and that's only what creative is, and that's not true. Creative can be so many things. Like, it can be altering patterns so they fit you. It can be looking at a fabric and going, oh, I can make that. You're literally creating stuff. But again, have a think. If you think like me, oh, I'm not creative, have a think about what you think of creative as.
Yeah. I think it's like
9 times out of
redefining
10 it is, because you're going, yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting because, yeah, like I think spending more time with you, actually, Sam, has made me realise I am a bit creative. But definitely, like, that's an area where I was like, I'm not a creative sewist. But I am, because I don't read instructions, so there must be something going on, which is a terrible, terrible habit, but I don't do it.
I think I agree completely. And I teach an arts award course in my school, and I quite often ask that question, actually, like, is teaching creative to the students, or is is taking a photo of a picture that you saw creative? And I think it all is. And I think so much of creativity is mental, like just having a thought, even day to day. A lot of the time people are more creative than they expect. And with sewing, that idea of taking a thought and it's sort of traveling through your heart and your arms and out through your fingers is just, that defines it, really. But also what you said, Sam, about having a fear, I think the fear is justified, right? And like, if we have it, it's okay to nurture it and sort of encourage, and don't just say, oh, I shouldn't be so scared of this thing, it's just a bit of sewing. It's like, no, it's okay to be scared. Mistakes do happen, and it's just about how you pick yourself up and deal with the mistake. Or even if you don't, if you throw it away, so be it. You've still done it.
You've still done it. You've given it a shot.
It's
and,
like
let's
having...
be clear, I've done a lot of things that have gone wrong, that will never see the light of day. Sometimes I share my failures because I think it's really important for people to see them. But there are other things that just went, the vision just didn't come out in reality, and I'm sorry, but that's going over there and no one's ever seeing it, and anybody creating things is going to have those moments, we all will.
Of course it is. I think the one thing about sewing that I wish, if I had a wand and I could change something about sewing, I wish we could do what pottery people do. When a pot's going horribly wrong and they just squish it back down into clay.
Smush it.
I wish we could do that with fabric. I wish you could just be like, okay, no, it's fine, it's all back to how it was and I can start again. Because I do think that's part of where it comes from as well. Am I going to invest all of my very precious free time and all of my effort, and it's going to go horribly wrong?
And fabric.
Yeah. And money and time and equipment and thread. And like, there's nothing more annoying than using... I did this last year. I put the most beautiful invisible zip in on the worst garment I've ever made in my life. It was hideous. Absolutely hideous. And I was like, no, sorry, that beautiful zip. I did film the zip for something else very specifically. I was like, I'm going to film the tutorial on the zip because it looks really nice. Yeah. But the rest of the garment was just awful. And I was so annoyed that I'd sacrificed a beautiful fabric, a lot of my time. Like, I'd spent ages making it really nice.
It's like, as we were just saying about sort of not so obvious things being creative, I think reflecting on something 2 weeks after you made it is in itself a creative sort of moment that you can just think about. And you probably learned a lot from that invisible zip, and you have this story to tell. Like, it all means something, right?
So what? The insides aren't great. I'm the one wearing it. Who cares? Someone else wears it. Oh my God, I'm having paroxysms over whether that seems straight. Like, the anxiety is there. So I think my other tip to this person who's written in is, I would say, if you're sewing for others exclusively, because this happens, sometimes people are like, I only sew for my kids, or I only sew for this person, or I only make this. Make something else. Make a bag.
Yeah, change your audience. That's such a good point. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just do something for yourself.
Perhaps you're hindering yourself by the fabric or the fastening or who you're making it for. Like you say, make something else.
If in doubt,
nothing wrong with it.
Give it a go.
Yeah, and I think it's those small things, because I did a YouTube episode in February called Am I a Rebel Sewist? I knew the answer already, but I wanted to get people talking. And it was so interesting other people's perception of whether they were or were not. It's the most comments, the lengthiest comments I've ever had. Like people writing like
and that's
several
saying
paragraphs.
something. Yeah, you get
I
massive
love
comments
it.
anyway. I love that,
and it was
though.
it was really interesting. Some people saying, I don't see myself as a rebel, I see myself as creative, or I see myself as like problem solver. And it was really like hearing how other people viewed it. And one lady who I kind of know a little bit through various social things, she said her response was about not being a rebel sewist and saying that she felt she couldn't be one till she had a certain amount of knowledge, which I thought was really interesting, because there are certain things where actually it is hard to hack a pattern if you don't know how to put a zip in or something, if you're going to add a zip. But actually, it can be as simple as going, I'm going to use 3 big buttons rather than the 5 small buttons that the pattern says, and choosing your placement of your buttonholes versus, which I never do, using that funny buttonhole positioning thing that they give you. Or it might be going, I'm going to use...
used it.
Never. Or even just like, I don't think Jess and I ever do this, following the layout of where you're supposed to lay the pieces on the fabric.
Oh my God, you know how
I
angry
listened to your
that
podcast
made me.
the other day.
God, did you? I'm so sorry.
I can't believe anyone has ever done. Well, I mean, if you do fair play, like you're doing what the instructions say, but I've never found a surface big enough, really, apart from the floor. But even then, I tend to do it on a table, and it wastes quite a bit of fabric. Well, sometimes it wastes quite a lot. And if you've only just bought enough for what you've got, you have to sort of change things up every now and again. Like I've done sleeves, the patterns, like the pattern's meant to be one way, and it's a little bit wrong, but I didn't have space to cut it as it suggested. I had to sort of squidge them in next to each other, and you make do, don't you? If there's none of that fabric left in the shop or in your stash, then make do.
Well, yeah, you make do. I mean,
or you cut the back
I think
on
that's
the fold,
interesting as well,
you
because
can get it.
To be fair, there's a few things I always do. Always cut the back on the fold, because
if I haven't got enough though, I'll cut it in 2 pieces because I can't if I can't as well. So it's do it or don't do it.
If you cut it in 2 pieces,
the fear of the sewing police getting you, and I'm like, they can come.
So this is the thing.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, so this is exactly what I mean. I was sewing, this must have been like 3 years ago, and this tells you what the reaction was, because I vividly remember everything about it. Yes, in 2021, I was sewing the Made My Wardrobe is the brand, Emmaus shirt. Now, I love that pattern. I've made like 3 or 4 of them. It's like got a lovely centre seam. It's sort of open, like peasant blouse vibe. It's really lovely. Anyway, it has these stunning sleeves where it's a raglan sleeve, which I love. And then it has like, it's a raglan sort of normal sleeve to the elbow. And then, Sam, remind me, is it a trumpet sleeve? It just sort of flares out?
Yeah.
And it's all relaxed? Yep. Is it a trumpet sleeve?
Or that's bell, probably bell, yeah.
Yeah,
it's sleeve
anyway,
now. It's
stunning.
Like...
You are. And what I love is that I'm just not learning them now because you know them. So I feel like the podcast has enough sleeve knowledge and I can just ask you. So the way I make that blouse, because I have made like 3 or 4 of them, so we don't get the instructions out, we just get the pattern. It's a raglan blouse. Like, I mean, come on. So I was putting it together and I put a photo on my stories of my 2 sleeves assembled independently of the rest of the garment. Because what I do is it's much, much easier to top sleeve, gather the bottom bell sleeve, attach that, French seam it, put that together, hem the sleeve, and then put it on the garment. Because, you're not having to deal with the rest of the garment being in the way of the sewing machine. So I do that. I post...
I can picture it.
Exactly. So it's gorgeous and it's all flowy and lovely, and I posted a photo on my story, these 2 sleeves, sat on my sewing table side by side, and I was inundated, I'm not kidding, inundated with messages going, why have you done that? The pattern says you have to put it in there. This is ridiculous. I can't believe you're showing people how to do this. And I was like, firstly, it's a sleeve. Take a breath.
Yeah.
Secondly, I'm not telling anyone to do it this way. And thirdly, it's a sleeve. Come on. Like, however I choose to put sleeves in my garments is frankly my business. But for some reason, we think we're entitled to an opinion. And it does put people off who are worried about doing something wrong when sewing is about play and relaxing and enjoying yourself.
I'm pleased to say that most of the message I get are people sending me random suggestions of sleeve reels and stuff they found, which is much more pleasant. People going, I've seen this link, you might like it. I'm like, thank you.
I do these kimonos, as I said, and the sleeve is about a metre long, and you do the shoulder seams of the front and back, and then you put it up in the middle and sew for about 40 centimetres or so there's a bit left over. And you flip it inside out and go up the side and then back down. You just sort of go. I usually sew sleeves in flat, right? So I go up the side and then turn and come along. And it's similar to that, but because it's the kimono, you've got to turn all the way around and come down. And then I finish it with a hand stitch. And because it's thick fabric and there's this bit in the middle, you can't make it match totally. So then I do like hand stitch circle around it, and that's quite fun. And that's sort of not usually done on a sleeve, so it's nice. And I just sort of picked that up because I was like, there's a little hole here, how can I fill it up? And it's just a sort of simple stitch. So I think it's all right if it works for you.
Yeah, as well, your body. So I'm going to throw something out there. If you are someone with what we would call traditionally in garment terms slimmer arms, you may get on better doing a bodice or anyone, and you can just throw your sleeve in. However, if you are using patterns that, for example, have a smaller size range and you're at the upper end of that size range, I would strongly recommend, this is a podcast recommendation, sewing the bodice up and checking the arm size before sewing your sleeve in flat, because that's my only caveat. I would say, if you're not sure, I do it all the time to check bust fit. If it's meant to be fitted and I'm not sure where the sleeve is going to end up, and if I need to add stuff, if I need to add room if I need to adjust seam allowances, etc., then I will sew the bodice, and then I will literally slide the sleeve up my arm and I will see what's going on. But other than that, that's my only time when I'm like, I want to check it, because a lot of patterns don't believe that women have busts that affect their arm size.
It seems like quite a lengthy step, doesn't it? And I think it might put people off, like, oh, I've got to do all of that and then unpick, but it's definitely worth it.
And I think people mustn't forget, basting
you literally baste it with like 4 stitches. Yeah.
Weird jinx there.
Yeah, but
basting something together.
No back stitch.
Yeah. I think we all say it together. 1, 2, 3,
it's worth
basting.
It again. Can we call that? Is that the episode title?
1, 2, 3, basting. Sounds like we're cooking a turkey.
I love it though. I think particularly there's 2 lessons, I think, sort of drawing this conversation to our key themes, and we'll each go round and say what our key themes are. But I think we've sort of talked about the fact that it's not going to get better if you don't start. You've got to start somewhere. Like, literally.
Marcus is there.
Well, I have, but also I've said this on the podcast many, many times. You know my 2 mantras.
I know.
Because for writing for PhD, you can't edit stuff that doesn't exist. That's my writing mantra, because that's the only way you get 80,000 words written, because it's going to be rubbish. So it's fine as long as it's rubbish, and then it gets better. But also finishing as a byproduct of starting, which is what I say to myself on every long run, because as soon as you start doing it, you're a little bit closer to being done. So as Marcus has also beautifully said, just get going. As I will contribute to it, try not to take it too seriously. Stick the TV on, have a drink, have a cup of tea. And Sam, would you like to round up what you think our key sort of thoughts are?
It's not that deep.
Yeah,
I think that's the thing. Is it's your hobby. This is not, we must get out of this mindset of everything being a side hustle. It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be any of those things. And actually, if you got the fear, just dig in the airing cupboard. I can't say this enough times. Dig in the airing cupboard, get an old sheet out and make it out of something that doesn't matter to start with, because you'll be less invested. Yeah. And I know Jess has the opposite opinion. She doesn't invest enough to care when she does that. But for a lot of people, if they've got the fear, just don't use your best fabric that you bought from Fabric Godmother that cost you loads of money. Yeah. Use something else to get that hurdle away, so that you can just be a bit more sort of brave, I think, about it.
Definitely. And again, I would say as well, I know Sam has called me out there because I don't follow my example. Yeah. I really struggle when except for my wedding dress, where it was like, that was much more like the editing process actually. But yeah, I can't be bothered with a toile most of the time. But one tip I do have, and I do this because it's cathartic as anything, if you need to make something new and small, cut up something you hate. that you've made.
Yeah.
It's very cathartic and make something new out of it.
That's
you
a
still
bit
get
like
to
the
use the fabric.
actually, isn't it?
So, Marcus, what would
That's
you add to?
sort of in the same vein as smashing your pot up and starting again.
You got
I think
any...
as well, with we sort of touched on before, mistakes do happen. You know, like we were talking about bed sheets. I've cut into wrong bed sheets, and it is annoying. It's like, okay, that's annoying, but it was a year ago now, and it doesn't really matter, and I won't probably do it again as well. So just go with it. As a side note, Jess, writing is hard. The fact that you're saying you're writing 8,000 words, like, I love to write, and I really enjoyed my dissertation, and sort of I write a few short stories and stuff, but it is so hard. I think compared to any other creative outlet, it's just like a blank page for me is far more terrifying than a sewing machine.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing. So I am a, for anyone on the podcast who doesn't know, because we didn't do intros for a while. I'm a PhD student and I'm a university lecturer, and I teach like advanced research skills, and I love it. It's great. But I am very lucky because my undergrad degrees and everything were very writing focused. So when it comes to writing 80,000 words of a thesis, that's okay, because you have to approach it with the mindset of 20,000 words of that are going to be awful, and I'm going to write 110 because I overwrite everything anyway. But it's there's something about, like, for example, my top writing tip for anyone is start writing because you're going to delete your first paragraph anyway. Your first paragraph normally is pointless, utterly useless. And if in doubt, write a short summary of what you think you're going to be writing, and then at the end you can normally steal that from the beginning and use it as your conclusion. But yeah, it's like sewing. I know my first sentence will be crap, but what matters is that it's there. The page is no longer empty. And it all gets better from there. It's the same way as if you've never sewn before, you're never going to sew unless you actually make a stitch and turn on the sewing machine and get your scissors out.
That mindset can be used for most of the creative arts, really. A lot of it, more of it will be bad than is good, and more of it will probably you won't be so proud of. But a lot of the time, that stuff other people really like.
Yeah. Oh god. So great example of this. Again, sorry, I'm on a publication deadline, so this is very close to my heart. Oh yeah.
Because I paint, and actually my degree is in fine art, and I think so many people think that artists like Van Gogh or whoever they think of, that what they see is the only thing they painted. The reality is there's hundreds and hundreds of partly painted canvases, Hoover painted canvases, sketchbooks that were never meant to see the light of day, because, you know, even the endlessly used on umbrellas and shopping bags sunflowers, Van Gogh painted loads and loads of variations of those before he got to the ones that he probably wasn't even his favourite, but that have become internationally popular. And I think that sometimes, I think sometimes people forget that actually any creative pursuit, there's a lot of bits on the floor, bits in the corners that nobody sees, and that we only see the finished product. So people can end up thinking that everything's the finished product, and it's not.
Yeah, you can't live life thinking everything you do is a finished product. Like, you just can't.
Music as well. I used to make a lot, not so much anymore, but like a 3-minute track could be sort of 8 to 10 hours making it, and that's such a small percentage of that time, but it's okay.
Yeah, and also, I think it's a good idea to show what you're doing to other people. So a great example of this, I'm on a publication deadline at the moment, and one of the weirdest things has been I make notes and I send it to my editor, and for example, there'll be a note in the side that's like, I need to find this reference. But I also leave notes like, oh, I hate this sentence, need to write this better, this bit's a bit, like I'll comment on my own work. And I went back in today and she's gone in and she's gone, no, I like this sentence, leave it in. And you're like, oh, okay, I thought it was awful, but you as my editor think it's good. Now maybe I'm being too harsh on myself.
Yeah,
maybe it's fine and I've just been looking at it for too long.
Yeah, can't see the wood for the trees.
Exactly. And I think that's a beautiful place to think about. So we started with a dilemma of want to enjoy my sewing more. And that is probably the most useful insight we can give you, is that firstly, it is not that deep. It's sewing. It's okay. But also, your sewing is what a wonderful thing to get to do and be creative. You don't have to finish a garment in every setting. You're not, working for Primark. Like, you can just sew a seam and have a cup of tea, and that's sewing. It's done.
Yeah, what a joy.
Yeah, exactly.
What a joy.
What a
Yeah.
sort of pleasure.
Yeah.
Also, if you're, in terms of showing it to other people, when you're on the machine, you're about 4 inches away from your stitch. You'll
Yeah.
never be that close. So, like, you can't see the wood for the trees again. It's like you get so
That
up
might be the
close.
title.
Yeah, like you're sewing, like a yellow bias binding to a yellow shirt with yellow thread, and you're like, oh, they're all the wrong yellows, and it's only because you're so stupidly
Yeah.
close to the thing
Yeah.
that
Can I just say, that's exactly what sat behind me?
really?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was doing this morning. I have yellow bias binding on a yellow shirt with
Subliminal
yellow
messaging
thread.
there coming through from your video to Marcus there.
But no, he's right, because as soon
Yeah.
as he said that, I immediately thought there's one stitch on the top of that by the buttons I'm not happy with. Is anyone going to notice that? No.
Also, even you will forget it in a couple of weeks' time. Probably a couple of weeks. Like, let alone if you've worn it and worn it and worn it, you'll totally forget about it. And if that stitch does come loose, you just fix it. That's the whole thing. We've all got sewing machines. Like, you just fix it, and isn't that again a joy?
Oh God, do you know what? Saying that feels like one of those things where you just go, oh yeah. It's not done. Like when it steps off the machine, you're allowed to fix your clothes.
Yeah.
The other cure for perfectionism, can I just say, if you ever look at your own work and go, oh, it's terrible, go and find the nearest stripy ready-to-wear garment you have and look at the stripe matching. I promise you it will make you feel better.
Yeah. Yeah, stripe is a whole beast of its own, isn't it?
Yeah.
You gotta just don't give the stripe too much of your mind.
No, but when you buy it from Marks and Spencer's, be justifiably outraged.
Yeah.
So, on that note of being justifiably outraged, Marcus, we'll come back round to, do you want to set the record straight with 3 words that would describe you? Or are you declining?
Okay, wait. I'm trying to think on the sort of theme of what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Can I get back to you? Wait. Sort of, what word means don't care? Laissez-faire.
Oh, okay.
Love it.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah, I like that.
Freedom. Yeah.
Can I just leave it at that?
I think you can. I think you can be laissez-faire. I think you absolutely can. And I think laissez-faire and joyful just from talking to you, which is honestly, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, my pleasure.
We have really appreciated your insights. It has been such a joy to talk to you. I feel like I now need to meet you in person because Sam has had that joy. So
Thorpe Park.
Yeah, of course. Why not?
Podcast trip out, you know.
So thank you so much. Yeah, podcast on tour. We'll have to do something.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you so much. Is there anything while you are with us that you would like to spotlight? Any fun projects you've got coming up? Anything you want to tell our audience about?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Firstly, it's been really nice. I've loved it. Spotlights, yeah, I'm sewing kind of slowly these days, to be honest. And I think in some ways it's a good thing. Like, I'm not putting too much pressure to. There was a bit of social media time after the sewing bee, and I've kind of just like let that fizzle out. But my Instagram I'm still using it quite a lot, and I'm posting all my house coats. I post like process videos quite a lot, and I make like little compilations of stuff I've made, which is a bit of fun making for myself more. But
Love
yeah,
it.
my fit.
Absolutely. I think that's beautiful. Now, I do want to say, for anyone in our audience for whom this is your first experience of Marcus, you can go back and watch his series of Sewing Bee on iPlayer, and we encourage you to do so. We haven't really talked about your Sewing Bee journey today, because that wasn't really the focus of the episode, but I strongly encourage you all to go and watch his series. It's brilliant, and you'll get to see his sewing in action as well, and do give him a follow on Instagram.
But yeah, definitely, the Sewing Bee season 10 is a great season. It's a lot of fun. And a good bunch of people on there as well. Yeah, it was so much fun to make.
And they're coming out slowly and elsewhere around the world now, which is good. So for any of our international listeners, I think I've just seen like season 9 or something. It's just come out in like Japan or something. So they are all slowly catching up. So just keep watching out for them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I really enjoyed
season 10 just finished in Australia. Yeah, they just finished in Australia, and it's going to Japan in October, and we all get a Japanese dub, which is I just can't wait for that so much. And there's a laughter track on the Japanese one as well, which is just brilliant.
Yes.
Sort of a canned laughter thing.
That sounds
That
weird.
sounds amazing. So, thank you so much, Marcus. You have been phenomenal. Now, as usual, Sam and I have 2 favours to ask. I'm going to ask one and she's going to ask the other. Firstly, send us in your dilemmas, your questions, your sewing fails, your experiences, your stories, whatever you want to share with us. There is a form in the link tree on our Instagram and we will put it in the show notes as well.
Mm-hmm.
As you've heard today, we really do chat about a dilemma and we love hearing your dilemmas. So please, 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 anything, funny stories, experiences, sewing fails, we don't mind. Whatever you want to share with us, you'll be totally anonymous, but do complete the form in our bio. And Sam has a favour to ask as well.
And if you want more of us, if you've not had enough of these super long episodes, you can become a Biscuit Tin member. And with that, you get bonus episodes, extra long episodes. So this episode might be even longer for our members, and a monthly newsletter that includes discounts to sewing shops. And last month's theme was all about haberdashery. We went to town for 9 pages about haberdashery, and it had 2 discounts for great shops in there as well. So have a look.
In fact, February's theme was haberdashery. In March, we brought you some phenomenal things for International Women's Day, and we also focused on, again, some of our favourite brands. But we are there. So thank you all so much for listening. As always, one final favour. Please review us and rate us on your podcast platform of choice, particularly if you're on Apple Podcasts. It makes a massive difference to who can find us. So please do leave us a nice review. If you don't want to leave us a nice review, feel free to not leave one. Nice reviews only, please. But do give us a rate. And do share us with a sewing pal as well.
Please
if you
do,
know someone who needs a new podcast. Fantastic.
And thank you so
we'll
much,
see
Marcus,
you next
that
time.
I didn't scare you. And I'm glad I didn't scare you at Thorpe Park. So thank you, listeners.
It was, as I said, it was so much fun to meet you at Thorpe Park, and just absolutely so random, and it's materialised in something, so it's always good.
Thank you. Bye.